Hi, I'm Levin and I'm making a split-screen FPS game called Couch Combat. Couch Combat has been a passion project that I've been working on for well over a year now, and in this video I'm going to basically show off the entirety of the last 1 year of development. Like most things, Couch Combat started off as an idea. I was looking around for a split-screen multiplayer game to play with friends. I had already played most of the more popular ones like Stick Fight the Game, and was specifically looking for a split-screen FPS, but on PC, none existed. Throughout the entirety of Steam, I could pretty much only find one game, and it was called Screen Cheat, and it wasn't really a classic shooter as it was based on the gimmick of everybody being invisible, and you have to guess where the opponents are by screen peeking. So I figured I'd make my own. The plan was simple: make an FPS structured kinda like Stick Fight the Game, Smash Bros, or Gang Beast. Short, fast-paced rounds, small stages, and a hectic run for guns and weapons that spawn around the stage. So I set on a journey to make a new game. Oh yeah, and did I mention that I had almost zero experience with Unity at this time? Before I began anything else, I got a good idea of what I wanted the game to look like. I wanted to stick with a simple, low-poly art style as that would be less demanding and also feasible for a single developer like me to make. I also decided to have a movement system that was fast and fluid, and I took influence from Apex Legends the most. There isn't anything crazy in the game like wall running, but there is sliding, high movement speed, and big jumps. And after playing that all out, I just decided to jump in and start making the game. And so began the messiest part of the game's development. I pretty much had no idea what I was doing at this time in Unity, so I followed a ton of tutorials in order to get somewhere. I followed a movement tutorial by Danny, a shooting one on Unity forums, and lots of resources on split screen and input from multiple controllers, instantiation, sounds, animations, you name it, and I probably have at least 10 Stack Overflow pages in my history asking about it. Although progress was slow, I was able to put together an ugly but functioning prototype in around 1 month, and this is also when I decided to show off the game to the world in its very first devlog. Looking back, this devlog has some very questionable editing choices, but I'm still glad that I was documenting the process of making this game all the way from the very start, as it's cool to look back now. Now that I had a pretty basic FPS game completed, I needed to implement all the features that were necessary for the minimum working prototype of my game. I needed to track points, have weapon pickups and dropping, and more. And since I didn't really want this to be another entry into the Bean FPS genre, I needed to learn how to 3D model. That way I can make my own guns, stages, and players. And honestly, looking back over the past year or so, what seems to eat up the most development time is 3D modeling. In a 3D game, you pretty much have to 3D model literally everything, and at this point in the game's development, I was just beginning to dip my toes into the infinitely deep pit of boiling water that is Bloating Blender. But I eventually got a player model and some pretty bad animations, and also learned how to use Pro Builder in Unity. With Pro Builder, I built out the first few stages, and on the side, I programmed in things like transitions, scoring, and weapon pickups. And within a few months of beginning development on the game, I had already reached version 0.3 with a few basic stages, 3 guns, the pistol, Uzi, and shotgun, and support for up to 4 players. Things were going pretty well, and it was at this point in development that I began to set my eyes on releasing a demo for the game. Making myself put together a somewhat functioning version of the game that can be played outside the editor was a good idea, but getting the game to this state would also take quite a few big additions. I first went back and removed some of the older stages and replaced them with better ones, and I also redid the old pistol animations and added sound effects. The two biggest challenges I had to overcome at this point were making a main menu and a script that automatically scaled the split screen and UI depending on how many players there were in the game. The split screen script ended up being possibly the most complicated thing I had programmed in Unity up to this point, and getting players to drop in and work on the main menu was quite hard as well. But I got the entire game put together and released after about 6 months of work on the game. Now that I had a demo out, I pretty much had a vertical slice of the game playable, but the main issue with that vertical slice was that it wasn't exactly pretty. The animations and stages looked pretty bad at this point, and so I resigned myself to improving them. The first thing I turned my attention to was the first-person animations. I'd gotten a decent amount better with Blender at this point, so I decided to go back and redo them all. Wow, I really hope I never decide to redo all the animations in the game again, because that would take forever. But I also added 2 new guns at this time, a revolver and AK-47, and since many people were having issues with the sensitivity of the game, and I needed a pause menu, I put together a pause menu with a settings menu in it. Working with canvases and UI in Unity is a time-consuming process, and even now, much later in development, I still have to fiddle with them constantly. It's almost as bad a time sink as 3D modeling. Almost. After fixing first-person animations, I got to fixing the third-person ones. The gun animations were designed with only first-person animations in mind, so they look really bad from the third-person perspective. So I decided to use inverse kinematics to make the arms follow the animations of the gun in third person. And after that, it was time to fix the final eyesore, the stages. It was at this point that I realized that I could no longer just make the stages in Unity and had to use Blender if I didn't want them to just be boxes. I decided to retheme the game around different genres of movies as that fits the couch theme of the game, and now the first area is themed around old samurai movies, rather than just the generic forest theme. So I built out some Japanese arches and new trees and also designed a few new stages. I wasn't exactly sure what to do for the terrain at first and considered using Unity's terrain tool and then decimating it in Blender to make it low poly, but I gladly changed my mind and went with a much less terrible method of just using randomization and make a new style of block in Blender. This new style looked much nicer, although it took much longer to model than the old boxes. And I also added a grenade throwable and melee combat to the game as well to spice up combat just a bit more. Then, over a long period of time, I put together a ton of oriental stages and I ended up with 8 in total, and I'm pretty happy with all their designs. I then set my sights on beginning to make the game look more professional. My first huge task that I had to complete was fixing the menus. The main menu was scuffed and the pause menu was also scuffed. So I needed to pretty much build them from the ground up, and so I did that, starting with the pause menu. I redid the buttons for the pause menu and then got to work on the settings menu, and I got everything in place to allow me to add lots more settings in the game in the future quickly. And for the main menu, I modeled a bunch of pieces for the room, set up a camera that moves around it, and then made the actual main menu. It took a lot of iteration and I'm still adding to it, but the main menu actually feels quite nice and smooth to use now, which I'm proud of. And with the new menu, I added a lot of customization options. Each player could choose a color and a hat to wear in the game, and with help from the community, I've been able to get quite a few fun hats that you can use in the game. Other small changes were made to make everything just slightly better, including switching to an actual color palette I found online for the stage, which is a slight change that I think made a big improvement. And now that the game looked nicer, I decided to make an official Steam page for it. I made a trailer for the game and made it available to be wishlisted on Steam. And yeah, that's about where the first year of development for my game Couch Combat ended off, but that is definitely not where I am right now. In the past few months after that first year, I've gotten a ton done. I added 8 new Outrun themed stages with wall running, overhauled the HUD and added aim assist, added a results screen and new small game modes, and am in the process of redoing all the animations for the gun in the game once again. Be sure to wishlist the game on Steam if you are interested, because I am planning on adding online multiplayer and releasing the game fairly soon. If you want to see all the development that I've done in this video in more depth, plus some other projects that I've done, plus all the new features that I mentioned just now, be sure to check out the rest of my channel and subscribe to stay up to date. Thanks for watching, bye.